The plan was to shoot Salvie inside the bar area. This funeral parlor had a little lounge, and there was a small bar that was separate from the room where the body was. But when we were there, the place was packed. You couldn't fucking move. We were all at the bar. Me, my uncle, Chucky, and Lawrence. Salvie was 10 feet away from us. My uncle tells Chucky, "Call it off. This place, no fucking good." Chucky makes eye contact with Charlie White, who was across the room, waiting for the signal. Chucky shakes his head. Charlie White just disappears into the fucking crowd. So now it's time to leave, and they have a receiving line outside for the Punjatori family. We all go through it together, one at a time. The whole fucking mob. As we're going through the line, the guys are gathering near our car so they can greet my uncle and Chucky, the boss and underboss. A sign of respect. Me, my uncle, Chucky, and Lawrence were the last 4 guys in the line. It was Lawrence, Chucky, then my uncle, then me. I was always in front of, next to, or behind my uncle. We never deviated from that. I was his eyes, making sure no one was to ever sneak up on him. So we're going through the lines of our guys, and everyone is there, lined up. The whole mob. Fafi, Tommy Dell, the Narducci brothers, Nicky Crow, Charlie White, the Milano brothers, the Grande brothers, Joe Legambi. Even the Punjatoris left their receiving line to come over and pay their respects. All the other guys were there, and all the way at the end of this line was Salvie. He was standing right next to the limousine we drove up in. So we're going through the line, and we're hugging and kissing everyone. We're coming up to Salvie, and Chucky goes in to kiss him. He grabs both of Salvie's cheeks and kisses him square on the fucking lips for like 10 seconds. Then he pulls away and looks at him with a crazed look in his eye. Salvie looked stunned, and all the guys around, their mouths were hanging wide the fuck open. It was the kiss of death. Salvie knew after that my uncle was going to kill him. There was no more doubt about it. Scarfo decided it was time to up the ante, and he called for another meeting with Tommy Del Giorno to discuss a revised plan to murder Salvatore Testa. My uncle tells Tommy, give the order to Joe Punch. The whole time this is going on, nobody in Salvie's crew knew we were going to kill him. They knew there was some tension, a little static, but no one knew exactly what was going on. A few days later, Tommy Dell comes back and he says to my uncle, Joe Punch says he'll do it, but he doesn't want to pull the trigger. Joe Punch is completely unaware of the situation, which has been going on for a few months by this time. Now, Tommy, Joe Punch, and Salvie are in the numbers business and the sports business together. The plan is they're going to get Joe Punch to take him to Tommy's house, where I'd be hiding behind the cellar door and would come out and shoot Salvie at the kitchen table. When we told Joe Punch about the plan, he says, I don't know if I can get him here, but I'll try. He's been acting funny. You see, Joe Punch was all upset because here was his best friend, and this thing with Salvie was all new to him. But he had no fucking choice. If Joe Punch had said no, he would have been dead. This was an order. You know what I mean? I mean, who's he gonna fucking beef to? And if he even said one fucking word to Salvie, one fucking iota, he would have been dead. He knows that. He knows this fucking game. So, what the fuck was he gonna do? The plan to lure Testa to Del Giorno's house failed, as did several other attempts that summer to set him up. But Pongitori was now part of the plot, and the circle was tightening around Salvatore Testa. Throughout that summer, the schemes continued. At one point, Caramondi had a pharmacist friend from Florida ship him knockout drops. There had been stories in the papers about hookers in Atlantic City robbing their johns after rendering them unconscious. The hookers would secrete a drug in their mouths, then slip it into the mouth of their customer. The papers were calling them the Kissing Bandits. Caramondi and Del Giorno figured they would drug Salvie. The new plan was to lure him to Del Giorno's boardwalk condo in Ocean City. Me, Charlie, and Tori go down the shore to Tommy's. We put some of the liquid in a glass and some in a cup. Joe Punch is supposed to get Salvie there. When he gets Salvie there, Tommy is going to offer him some coffee or soda. He had the glass ready and the cup ready. So we were waiting on the boardwalk at a pizzeria. Once this was done, we were supposed to take Salvie out, shoot him, leave him on a highway somewhere. See, the way Tommy's building was set up, we could have got him right out the fucking door. Pull the car right up alongside the door. Practically, nobody would have fucking seen us. We waited most of the day. After a while, Joe Punch shows up and says I couldn't get him here. I told you. He's been acting funny. Over the years, I have replayed over and over in my head the most extraordinary event in my life. It was August 1984. It was a hot, still, steamy night. I came home late from a dinner in Center City with friends. As I was parking my car, Sal suddenly pulled his car up next to mine and just stopped and looked in at me. I froze. I didn't pull the window down or try to speak. We just stared at each other for a few moments until he rolled the window down and motioned for me to do the same. I think I said, "What do you want?" Mind you, I hadn't seen him face to face like this in about 2 years. Can we talk? Please? No, Sal. I don't want to talk to you. He did as he had always done. The little motion of the head to the side. And sad puppy eyes. I remember thinking, when have you ever been able to say no to him? When? Okay. We can talk. I got into his car. I was so nervous. Excited. Even relieved to finally be near him and with him. Upon getting into the car, we hugged and we kissed, and then I felt it. I immediately sensed an awful aura, a thick air around him, a heaviness that had an electrical charge to it. I know that it's easy to talk about in hindsight, but in that very moment, I shivered at the feeling I sensed. I knew he was in serious danger, and I had known it for several months. I knew that I too was placing myself in danger by sitting in that car in the middle of the street that hot, humid, quiet August night. Although in 2 years I had moved on, sitting there and looking at him, being so close to him, feeling the warmth emanating from his body, kissing each other and greeting, made all that time and all that distance, all that work to overcome what I had endured, just vanish. There we were, just us two kids, still, after all these years, so connected and intertwined with a deep, powerful, visceral bond, and still crazy for each other. And then the conversation began. He said that all was okay with him. Of course, I knew better. But that since his mother was gone and his father was gone, his sister lived far away and he was all alone. Even if he wasn't, I believe he thought and felt that he was. He felt his life had no meaning. Ro, I have nothing. My life has no fucking meaning. And I really don't give a fuck about anything. I have nothing left. Except my niece. Except my little niece. He pulled out a photo of the 18-month-old baby girl, named for his mother, Althea. Look how beautiful she is. She's all I care about. Imagine that. He kept an 8x10 photo of her, sheathed in plastic, in the glove box of his car. We talked about the article about him that appeared in the Wall Street Journal that April. I told him I absolutely hated it, and he said he did too. That's all I need, right? That's the kind of shit that gets you killed. Oh, by the way, congratulations on breaking that engagement, which just might have been the most insane fucking thing you've ever done, Sal. You have no fucking idea how insane that was. The young lady in question, he said, had told him all sorts of stories about me and my alleged infidelities, had essentially filled his head with all sorts of crazy lies and stories to drive a wedge between us. She had his phone number changed. He believed to prevent me from calling him, and had transformed his house into a place in which he no longer felt welcome, and that he no longer recognized. What the fuck am I going to do with a jacuzzi in my bathroom? Want to come inside and see it? See how fucking ridiculous it is? I respectfully declined. He said that he had bought a new home at the shore, and that the title was to be in the name of his sister and her husband, not his. When his fiancée found out about it, she became enraged. And what about me? What do I get if you get killed? That was really the final straw. I said, it's a very good thing you came out of that, Sal. But still, I felt so afraid for him. I understood why he did that. He was alone, and he had never been so lonely, so beaten down and vulnerable in his entire life. It was crushing to contemplate how many people were against us. We were surrounded by people who never had our best interest in mind or heart at all. This was a very devastating thing for us both to fathom. But we were able to discuss it openly and with complete honesty that night. We talked a great deal about how the illness of envy is a far worse thing than hatred, and how that envy had affected us individually and as a couple. If I give you the new number, will you call me? Of course, I said that I would. As I reached for my little black book in my bag, half under my breath, I said, let's see, do I write it under S for Sal or T for Testa? How about L for lifelong? And that's what I did. He said he had gone through all of his money and had almost nothing left. They're always asking me to borrow money. How can I say no? That made me want to vomit, because I knew what that meant. I knew that he did too. But he was so not prepared to acknowledge that truth consciously. After a while, I began to feel afraid. There we were in the middle of the dark street. Not a soul anywhere around us. I felt very exposed, vulnerable. Sal, park the car, please, and let's go sit on my porch. Or yours. I don't want to sit in the car. I thought we would be less conspicuous on the porch, so that's what we did. Years later, I learned that he was already being stalked by his potential killers, who were waiting for the right moment to take him away. We began to reminisce. We talked about meeting as kids on the boardwalk in Ventnor, and how I thought he was a conceited little ass, and he thought I was a pretty girl. We talked about going to the Spectrum to see the closed-circuit Muhammad Ali fights, and going horseback riding down in Jersey. We talked about Apache, his horse, dying. We talked about my grandfather, who loved him, and who died when we were 19. Until the end, Pop always called him Mike. Never Sal or Salvatore. This made us laugh. We talked about all of his grandparents, two of whom had died at that point, and about his mother getting sick and what her dying did to him. We relived the day she died, which was huge for the both of us. We talked about the death of his father, reliving the sequence of events that night. Truly the worst thing to happen in his life, and how that had been the end of his world. And I knew it. We talked about us as a couple, as two kids in love. I never loved anyone in my life as much as I loved you. Besides my family, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. You've always been there for me. I understand now what you meant. All the times you used to say you wished I only had 2 subway tokens in my pocket. I used to think you didn't want me to have good luck. But now I understand. I never felt used by you. I never felt like you wanted anything from me but to love you. And I did. And still do. It was really always you, Rosina. So, why did you lie and cheat and treat me so badly? How did we get here, Sal? How did we get to this point? I've never loved anyone in my life the way that I loved you either. But you weren't good to me in the right way. You pushed me away and away until this. Don't ask me any questions, okay? Don't ask me what I'm talking about when I tell you something I need to tell you. Rolling my eyes and feeling that same old exasperation, I just said, "What the fuck? What?" I owe you an apology. I'm sorry. Because only now do I wish I had listened to you all these years. You were right. You know? You were right. And I see it now. Naturally, I asked him what he was talking about. No questions. You were right about everything and everybody all along, okay? That's all I'll say. I didn't feel victorious. I knew I was right, and I knew what I felt in his presence. Sorrow, desolation, resignation, looking at his destiny and thinking that just maybe it wasn't what he wanted, but completely bereft of any idea how to change anything now. And then he asked me, "Do you still love me?" I stared at him silently for a few moments and then replied, "Sal, I rest of my life and into the next one and the one after that and the one after that. After a few moments of silence, he asks me, "Do you ever think we'll ever get it together in this life? And, get married, have those kids we always wanted?" Before answering, I thought to myself, should I tell him? Should I tell him how insanely afraid I am for him, for his life and his future now? Should I tell him what I truly feel in my heart? Or should I lie to him so he feels better? Can I even say out loud in my guts what I feel to be true? Crying almost uncontrollably now, I looked right at him and I said, "No, Sal, I really don't. I don't think we'll ever manage to get it together in this life." He looked at me and didn't say anything for what seemed to be a long while. We just looked at each other, not saying anything, both crying, me sobbing, him with just tears. Then he said something that was so not him, so not who he was, how he lived, what he thought, what he believed. Something so out of line with his spirit, with his character. Well, that's okay. It's okay, Ro. Because I'll be waiting for you. I'll be looking for you the next time around, and we'll get it right then. For a long while, we just sat in silence, with my head on his shoulder and holding hands, until finally dawn began to make itself seen and felt. I had to go to work, but there we still were, out on that porch, and I did not want to leave him. I wanted to stay with him forever. I wanted the night and day to last for 1,000 years.
Despite the appearance of a close family, Scarfo was paranoid and psychotic, constantly sensing betrayal and treachery. He even doubted the loyalty of one of Leonetti's best friends, Salvie Testa. He ordered his execution.
So they gave me and my partner the hit on Testa. Now Testa felt some bad vibes because he knew what he did wasn't right, and it was pretty hard to get him because we wanted to shoot him in the store where we hung at. It was pretty hard to go away anywhere because if he saw us, he would have known. He couldn't figure out who was going to do it. So we tried for 6 or 7 months to try to get him. We just couldn't get him.
How did you feel then, knowing that one of your best friends was going to be killed?
I felt sick about it. I felt sick. And I hated, he would hang around with me every day. He would come to the office. It was during the summer while they were planning to kill him, you know. He got killed in September of '84, but during this time, every day he's at the office and I'm looking at him. And I was getting sick. And I was with him all the time. And we went out to dinner one time. And he changed. She said, Phil, let me sit over there. Because he didn't want his back to the door. So I got up. All right. I said, look, Sal. I said, if something's going to happen, if I see somebody coming, ain't I going to tell you? Somebody's going to come. He says, I know, Philip. I'm so crazy right now. I don't know how I'm thinking. You know. He was suspicious. He felt like he was going to get killed, but then he thought maybe I won't let nothing happen to him because I could talk to my uncle. He was being really careful.
So anyway, this fella came in the store. He shook his hand. He got up and shook his hand. As soon as he turned around, the fella grabbed the gun and shot him in the head. He went down and shot me again. Me and my partner and another, he was a proposed member at the time, helped take the body out. This is like 9 o'clock at night, and we took it like 30 miles and dumped it in Jersey.
Testa's body was found here in the aerial section of Gloucester Township. The body was easily visible from the road, apparently dumped here hastily late last night.
Why couldn't you just say to him, look, you can't do this?
Because he would have killed me, siding with Salvie. If I would have told Salvie to run away, he would have killed Joey Punchatore and his whole family, thinking that Joey Punchatore told him. He would never expect me to do it. You know, he would trust me too much.
But some of these people must have been your friends.
Oh, some of them. Salvie Testa I loved. I spent almost 2 years with him night and day. And I knew, you know, his loyalty to this thing. And I used to get nightmares over him. I mean, I used to wake up screaming because I just loved the guy. I didn't want to see him die. So many times I wanted to tell him, why don't you leave town? But I couldn't. Every day I was trying to kill him.
After we made the drop in Jersey, I drove everybody home. We were supposed to get changed and meet around the corner in a half hour. Then we drove down to La Susina. Nikki's there with about 10, 15 members. Joe Punch, Wayne Grande, Chucky, Philip, Lawrence, Gino, Joe Grande, we're all getting congratulated. Congratulating one another. Nicky had ordered a buffet dinner for us, and he had some of his friends from Mexico there with him. It was like some great big fucking party. You know, I always wondered how you got over on Salvie with that handshake. Oh, man, I knew about that fucking handshake. I was ready for that. I was sitting on the couch when he came in. I had the gun under the couch pillow. When he came in, I shook his hand, and as soon as he turned around, I grabbed the gun and shot him in the head. As soon as he went down, I gave him another one in the fucking head. And it was over. Yeah, I knew about that fucking handshake. He gave me the frisk. When I shook his hand, he patted me the fuck down. But I was hip to the fucking handshake. Yeah.
Salvatore Testa funeral procession arrived at St. Paul's Catholic Church in South Philadelphia shortly after 10 this morning. Among those arriving was Testa's sister, his grandmother, and a girlfriend. As a church bell tolled, Testa's casket was carried up the steps. A mass of Christian burial was said. In the homily, the church's pastor said it was Testa's survivors that bear the burden of disturbing rumors and innuendo. Testa reportedly had gone from relative obscurity to being a capo, or captain in the local mob, in just 3 years. According to the FBI, Testa's rise was due to his close relationship with mob boss Nicky Scarfo.
Nick more or less took Salvatore Testa under his wing, almost like a son. They were very, very close.
But sometime in the last 6 months, a strain had apparently developed in that relationship. Scarfo has been notably absent since Testa's murder.
Were you surprised that Mr. Scarfo did not show up at either the viewing or the funeral?
It didn't surprise me. We find of late at these funeral situations, there may be a multitude of reasons why they don't appear. It may be simply that he didn't want to cause that type of notoriety and create a circus-type atmosphere. Then again, it could be evidence of differences between the two of them.
O'Callaghan says it's too early to speculate whether Scarfo's absence is significant. Testa's body was laid to rest following the funeral at a cemetery in Delaware County. A large group of mourners were present at the gravesite. Salvatore Testa was a new breed of organized criminal. He was brash and aggressive. He rose to the ranks quickly. By age 28, he was dead. John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News, South Philadelphia.